Yeah, so it's recording now. All right. So thank you so much again, class, for joining our class discussion for today. So it's highly appreciated. And how's your short period academic break? So wala talaga tayong ginawa, pahinga lang, 'di ba? So meron po ba kayong mga ibang professors na may pinagawa sa inyo during your short period academic breaks, or you enjoyed those holidays?
Wala naman po sir
Wala na.
nagpagawa.
All right. Okay. All right. All right. So going back here, so we are now on our. I think this is chapter 4 of our auditing theory. So chapter 4 siya. For the past chapters, nakalimang meetings na tayo. So during our first meeting, so na-discuss natin what is auditing, ano yung verbatim, na-discuss na rin natin yung assertions. So na-discuss na natin yun doon, which we call them perceive. On the second meeting, na-discuss na rin natin yung types of audits. So yan, so this types of audits and then the types of auditors. So bakit din natin kailangan maintindihan why there is a need for financial statement audit, and then the theoretical framework of auditing. So, napag-aralan din natin siya. On our third meeting, napag-aralan din natin yung generally accepted auditing standards, kung saan meron siyang three clusters. We call general standards, standards of fieldwork, and then standards of reporting. And then on our fourth meeting, na pag-aralan din natin yung other auditing standards, related standards sa auditing. So yan, we have the Philippine Standards on Auditing, PSQC, which is now called PSQM, PSREs, PSAEs, PSRS, PAPs, and then AASC alerts. And then on our fifth meeting, napag-aralan din natin yung auditor's responsibility. Ano ba yung main responsibility ni auditor? Ano naman yung responsibility niya pagdating sa errors, pagdating sa fraud, sa pagdating sa non-compliance. So, during the past 5 meetings that we had, napag-aralan na natin yung 3 chapters. Now we are going to the normal or the proper, the audit proper, the audit process. Yeah. So audit process. So, all right. Okay, wait for a moment, class. All right. Okay. All right. Ayan. Okay, so can you still hear me, class?
Yes
Yes
po.
po.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes po.
So the audit process. So ito yung parang pinaka-proper. How do we start with the audit process? With the audit pala, with the audit. Na. So this is the first process. So the first process is to accept an engagement. So that will be our first process. Siyempre, there will be no audit kapag walang inaccept na audit engagement. So tayo bilang auditor, ito yung first step natin, accepting an audit engagement. So, paano natin i-accept ang isang audit engagement? From our personal point of view, anyone from the class, paano natin masasabing we can accept this type of client, okay siya, ganon. So, kapag may lalapit sa atin, for example, isang company, hi Mr. Auditor, hi Miss Auditor, baka pwede nyo namang i-audit yung financial statement namin. So kayo bilang auditor, isipin nyo, you put yourselves in the shoes of an auditor. Ano yung gagawin ninyo para i-accept yung isang audit engagement? So pag-iisipan nyo ba? Like, you'll think for 3 seconds, okay, I'll accept that. So, ganun po ba? Yes, Kim. Yes, Kimberly.
Para po sa akin, ang una munang gagawin is yung, kumbaga, background checking. Yung client Yung business ng client, kumbaga magkakaroon ng background checking sa kanila.
Yes, no? So that's correct, no? Dapat may background checking. So highlight natin dito. Dapat may background checking. Tama naman yan, di ba? Kasi part yon ng ating quality system, di ba? Or system of quality controls. Di ba napag-aralan natin yun sa ating uh, professional standards dun sa particularly sa PSQC number 1 or PSQM number 1. So, kailangan talaga natin i-check yung background ng business, how do they operate, saan sila nakalocate, nakukuha po ba, nagigets po ba? Because we are trying to understand what is the nature, what is the role, what is the function of the client's business. Siyempre, kailangan natin pag-aralan. Ngayon, di ba, like for example, sabihin natin, if you're a girl, may gustong manligaw sa inyo, kailangan nyo bang kilalanin yung lalaking manliligaw sa inyo? Is it a yes or a no? Kapag may manliligaw po sa babae. Sa mga girls, di ba? Sa mga girls, pag may manliligaw sa inyo, kailangan ba nating kilalanin?
Yes po.
Yes, di ba? So, kailangan natin mag-conduct ng background checking. Ganun din naman sa mga boys. Di ba kayo, yung mga boys naman, kapag manliligaw kayo, kailangan nyo bang kilalanin yung girl? Or kilatisin
Opo.
muna? Yes, di ba? So, tama naman. So, kapag nanliligaw or liligawan ka, kailangan mo naman kilalanin kung sino ba yung manliligaw or sino ba yung liligawan nyo. So, same then with being an auditor. So, kapag meron kang bagong client or potential client, syempre kailangan muna natin siyang kilalanin. So, yan po yan. So, aside from background checking, ano pa kaya yung mga dapat nating gawin para ma-consider natin, i-accept natin siya in the future? Ano pa yung mga dapat? Yes, Vanessa. Yes, Vanessa.
Ano po, para sa akin po sir, alamin yung terms and condition nung nagpapa-audit para malaman, like for example, kung kailan po yung deadline, magkano po yung amount na willing nilang ibayad, like ganun po.
Yes, no? So that's correct. The terms, yan, lagyan natin. Sorry. Lagyan natin siya. Yan, terms and conditions of the engagement. The engagement. So, kailangan maintindihan, mapag-usapan ng both parties. Ito yung terms ko sa side ko. Ano yung terms mo naman sa side mo? Kailan natin dapat ma-accomplish yung audited report or yung audit report? Kailan nyo ine-expect? Diba? Sabihin ay tomorrow na. Siyempre kayo bilang auditor, ay hindi ko po yun kaya kung tomorrow na agad. Siyempre may gagawin kaming audit process. Hindi po namin basta-basta ibibigay yung aming audit report or audit opinion. Audit opinion na without doing any audit talaga, di ba? Kasi uso yun ngayon. Yung iba, hindi man sabihin man natin na we are in compliant with the ethical standards that we have bilang accountant. Pero meron kasing mga ibang accountants, auditors na pipirma lang, hindi re-reviewin yung financial statement ng isang company. As long as babayaran sila, okay lang sa kanila. So, syempre tayo, we are upholding the ethics, di ba? The ethical requirements of being a professional accountant and a professional auditor. So, syempre, kailangan masunod yung talagang process sa pag-audit. So, yan. So, kailangan mag-background check. Kailangan na pag-agrihan yung terms and conditions of the engagement or of the audit engagement. So, meron pa po ba tayong ibang naiisip aside from these two? Meron pa po kaya? Anyone from the class? Yes, Jean May. Yes, Jean.
Siguro po sir, i-consider po kapag may mga threat po regarding po sa independence po ng firm at saka sa objectivity po nila.
So yan, so merong threats. So tama ba yung threat ko? Spelling ng threats. Yeah. So threats as to independence of the auditor. Ayan. So, kailangan i-consider din natin bilang auditor, ano yung mga threats, possible threats as to independence ng isang auditor kapag nag-accept siya ng engagement. Kasi merong mga threats dyan. It could be a familiarity threat, independence threats, self-interest threats. So these threats, pag-aaralan natin to sooner if we are going deeper or studying deeper the auditing theory or auditing and assurance principles na subject. So ayan, kailangan din natin yan i-consider. So may mga threats kasi na nakaka-affect ng independence, objectivity ng isang auditor. So ayan. So mamaya pag-aralan natin yung mga iba, mga basic threats. All right. Okay, so thank you for this three good examples. Why do we need to consider whether we are accepting or whether hindi natin sila i-accept, di ba? An audit, a client subject to audit. So, syempre, ganun pala ang isang auditor, pihikan din. Hindi agad-agad ina-accept ang isang audit client kung gusto nila magpa-audit agad. So, hindi lang tayo more on money, di ba? We don't focus on money. Although, kailangan natin ng money. However, we need to consider other factors before we accept a client to be audited. So, yeah. All right. So, under the auditing standards, kapag ina-accept natin ang isang client or bago natin i-consider ang isang client na i-accept for audit engagement, kailangan nating i-consider una, is it a new client? Bago ba siyang client or is it an existing client na siya? Client mo na siya noon, magiging client mo ulit siya ngayon kasi magpapa-audit ulit siya. So, ayan. So, dun muna tayo sa una. Is it a new client? So, we have to consider first if a client is a new client. Bagong client ba siya? Siyempre, kapag bagong client siya, magbibigay ka ng proposal letter kapag in-accept mo, di ba? So, the proposal letter is also known as engagement letter, di ba? Ayan. So, balik ulit tayo doon sa pagiging auditor. Put yourselves in the shoes of an auditor. Ano yung dapat ninyong i-consider bago i-accept ang isang bagong client? Yes, Nico.
Sir, yung existing, parang existing records niya po from yung previous audit po.
Yes, no? So tama yun. We have to consider the auditability of the new client, di ba? Kung auditable ba siya, syempre, kailangan nating hingiin yung available financial statements or accounting data. Diba? So, syempre, this new audit client or new client subject for audit, kailangan may available accounting data siya. Kasi kung wala siyang available accounting data or financial statement, paano natin sila ma-audit, di ba? Baka mamaya i-accept natin, tapos sabihin na, pag hinanap na natin yung financial statements nila or accounting reports nila, sabihin nila, ay wala pa, gagawin pa lang namin. So syempre, maapektuhan yung inyong time frame sa pag-audit nung kanilang financial statement. So you have to check kung merong available accounting data na sila, di ba? So, kailangan auditable na talaga mismo yung client. Siyempre, tayo bilang auditor, precious yung time natin. Hindi lang naman isa yung client natin. Marami tayong client na i-audit. Marami tayong client na pagsaservan. Ibibigay ang ating service. Yan, i-render ang ating service. So aside from that, the auditability of the new client, ano pa kaya yung mga dapat nating i-consider? Aside from that, anyone from the class? Anyone from the class? Can you still hear me, class?
Yes po.
All right. So ano pa kaya? Siyempre, isipin ninyo, bagong client siya. So, bagong client, ano kaya yung dapat ko munang i-consider bago ko siya i-accept? Ano yung first thing, the very first thing na papasok sa inyong isipan? Yes, Luella.
Sir, kapag meron ka pong knowledge about dun sa business client mo, kung malawak po yung knowledge mo po dun, sir.
Kung malawak ang
Knowledge. Yes po.
Yes, di ba? Siyempre, kung malawak yung knowledge mo bilang auditor, siyempre, you will accept that. Di ba? I-accept mo yon. Pero kapag hindi malawak yung knowledge mo, hindi ka kampante na, I'm not really confident na kaya kong i-audit itong client na to kasi napaka-unusual nung transactions. Hindi siya within my expertise. So, syempre, may possibility na hindi nyo i-accept. So, kino-consider natin dito, tama yung sinabi ni Luella. Pero, yung exact na sinabi ng accounting standards doon, ay ng auditing standard, sorry, not accounting standard. Ng auditing standard is, it is the competence of the auditor. You have to check the competence of the auditor. Kung competent enough ba siya. Or in our place, sabihin natin, tayo yung auditor, we have to check if we are really competent enough to handle that kind of audit. Siyempre, sabihin natin, auditor kayo, marami na kayong in-audit na malalaking corporation. As in mga big corporations, mga multinational corporations, ang dami nyo ng in-audit. But there is one client, potential client, kung saan ang nature ng kanyang transaction ay cooperative. Cooperative siya, hindi siya for-profit na corporation. So since cooperative siya, hindi kayo sanay. Ay, cooperative ito, hindi ako sanay dito. So, anong iisipin ninyo? I-accept nyo ba or hindi? Kasi hindi kayo familiar with cooperative, yung accounting framework for cooperative. Remember, di ba, ang pinag-aaralan natin sa school, we have full PFRS. We have full PFRS. We have PFRS for small and medium-sized entities. And then we have PFRS for small entities. But please don't forget, di ba? So, please don't forget kasi meron pang existing framework. This is the financial reporting framework for cooperative. It is a separate reporting framework specifically for cooperative. Siyempre, kayo bilang auditor, sanay na sanay kayo sa mga big corporations. So you are using full PFRS. And then pag meron kayong client for SMEs, small and medium-sized entities, you apply PFRS for SMEs. So ang galing nyo doon. Sobrang yung galing doon. Ino-audit nyo lahat sila. Ang ganda ng result ng inyong pag-audit. Pero may dumating na isang cooperative, kaya naman nila magbayad ng professional fee ninyo. Kaso, syempre kayo, hindi pa kayo aware with the cooperative operations at kung paano mag-audit or mag-present ng financial statement ng isang cooperative. So, kayo class, on your personal opinion, will you accept that potential client, that new client na cooperative yung operation? Yes, sir.
No po, sir.
So kay Gabriel, no kay Gab. So sa iba, ano naman sa iba?
No din po, sir.
No kay Luella. Yes. Sa iba naman, meron ba mag-accept ng yes? So, meron po ba? Anyone from the class? Alright. So kay Gab, no. Kay Luella, no din. Diba? So, meron po bang mag-yes or lahat no?
Ako po, sir, yes.
So si Vanessa naman is yes. Alright. So, the correct answer here is it could be either a no, it could be either a yes. Bakit kaya no or yes? Kasi depende sa auditor. Kung sa tingin nyo, kahit hindi kayo confident enough na i-audit yung isang cooperative, pero personally, on your professional judgment, kaya nyo naman siyang i-audit kahit hindi kayo confident. So why not accept it? So remember class, 'di ba? Remember when I say, 'di ba? When I say auditing, we always apply professional judgment. So ina-apply natin palagi yung professional judgment kapag tayo ay isang auditor. So, ganun din sa pag-accept ng client. So, since we are applying our professional judgment, it depends on you bilang isang auditor whether to accept a client or not. So, kung kaya ng appetite ninyo, you are upholding with the ethical requirements, pero since bago yon, tas excited kayong hawakan siya or i-audit siya, yung bagong client, and then kaya ng appetite ninyo na i-audit yung unusual transactions, ready kayo to face the consequences, okay lang. So i-accept ninyo. Tapos kung mag-stick kayo doon sa inyong expertise, nag-audit lang kayo ng mga large corporations or mga sikat na corporations, so doon na kayo. So you can reject or not accept an audit engagement with a cooperative client. So remember, kapag kayo ay auditor, you always apply your professional judgment. Lagi natin yung sasabihin during our class discussion. Ito yung maririnig ko palagi. Independence, objectivity, professional judgment, due care, competence. So yan yung mga normal nating maririnig kapag nag-aaral tayo ng auditing. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba class? Can you still hear me?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Yes po.
All right, class. Okay. So aside from this two, 'di ba? Aside from these two, ano kaya yung mga dapat pa nating i-consider? Dapat i-consider kapag mag-accept tayo ng bagong client. So in-emphasize natin na new client ito. So ayan, so isusulat ko muna. Ulitin ko lang, new client. Ayan. All right. So kapag new client, ano pa yung mga dapat i-consider? Yes, channeling. Yes, channeling.
Yung ano po sir, integrity po ng client. Ay, ng...
Yes,
Yes
that's
po.
correct. So tama yon. We are considering the integrity of the client. That is the first one. Siya yung pinakauna. Bakit natin dapat i-consider yung integrity of the client? Kasi we are following auditing standards, 'di ba? So ano yung covered auditing standards? Meron palang auditing standards na nagko-cover kapag nag-accept ng bagong client. So we are covered by PSA 210 saka PSA 220. So ano yung PSA 210? Agreeing to the terms of engagement. So yun yung ibig sabihin nun. And then we have PSA 220, which is the quality control for an audit of financial statement. So since PSA 220 ito, di ba? PSA 220 siya relating to quality control for an audit of financial statement. Then sakop din ito. Matatouch din natin yung PSQC number 1 or PSQM number 1, which is the standards of quality control or standards of quality management. So ito pala yung tatlo na auditing standards na related dito kapag nag-accept tayo ng bagong client. So ano po yung auditing standards na related dito kapag nag-accept tayo ng engagement, audit engagement? We are applying PSA 210, we are applying PSA 220, and then PSQC number 1 or PSQM number 1. Balikan natin yung pinag-aralan natin sa professional standards. So I think that's meeting number 4. Sa sa PSQC number 1 or PSQM number 1, 'di ba napag-aralan natin doon yung systems of quality control? Yan. So systems of quality control or systems of quality management. When pag pinag-aaralan natin yung systems of quality control or systems of quality management, pinag-aaralan din natin yung elements of quality control or quality management policies and procedures. Kung saan, chine-check natin yung integrity, di ba? Integrity of the client, integrity of the auditor, di ba? So, that is one of the ethical requirements that we are checking. Kasi ito rin, kasama rin dito sa elements, acceptance and continuance of client relationship. So remember the last time that we discussed, di ba? So kapag terorista ba ang isang grupo, tapos gusto magpa-audit sa inyo, sinabi nila, kayo kasi yung pinaka the best na auditor. Yung itong klase na to sa auditing, sa itong klase na to ni Sir Mark, ito yung batch na may pinakamagaling na auditors. So lahat pumasok sa top 5 sa board exam, sa CPA board exam. So syempre na-amaze yung Al-Qaeda group, 'di ba? Dahil gusto nila i-audit ninyo yung financial statements nila. Will you accept that kind of client? Will you accept that kind of client, class?
No po.
Di ba hindi? Kasi syempre, it might impact your integrity as an auditor. Sasabihin ng ibang tao, ano ba naman yung auditor na yan? Na consider pa naman na magaling, natag pa naman as magaling, bakit mag-a-accept ng ng grupo na nag-i-spread ng terrorism, ng inhumane activities. So, 'di ba? Dapat sa atin, syempre we are upholding our ethical requirements. Syempre unethical yung ginagawa ng client natin. We should not accept that kind of client. Pero tulad ng sabi ko sa inyo, kung kaya ng appetite ninyo, you apply your professional judgment, 'di ba? So you apply your professional judgment, kung kaya nyo, okay lang. Kung hindi, okay lang din, 'di ba? Pero syempre applying the strictest ethical standards, ang ideal is not to accept that kind of client. All right. Okay, so going back again sa ating topic. So, syempre, kailangan natin i-check yung integrity of the client. So, paano mag-check ng integrity of the client? So, tama yung sinabi kanina. You do the background checking. So, kailangan i-identify natin si client. Ano kaya yung nature, di ba? Ano kaya yung nature nung client? Nature of activities, saan nakalocate yung client, saan yung location niya, sino-sino kaya yung board of directors, 'di ba? Sino kaya yung mga board of directors neto? Sino kaya yung nasa organization, yung mga nasa management, 'di ba? Yung employees, you can also check the employees, 'di ba? Pwede mo silang kausapin, pwedeng mag-background checking kayo. Itong mga employee na to, mababait ba? Or high moral ba sila? Or low moral? Siyempre, check ninyo kapag low moral yung mga employee ng client ninyo, baka may problema si client. Baka meron siyang hindi na ibibigay na maayos sa mga employees nila. So, syempre, kung may hindi na ibibigay na maayos, baka subject to compliance risk. Baka may non-compliance silang ginagawa or nagawa. So, pwede nyo yun i-check. So, alert kayo doon bilang auditor. So, you have to check the integrity of the client. Bakit? Balikan ulit natin because we are applying the following auditing standards. PSA 210, PSA 220, and then PSQC number 1, which is now PSQM number 1. So, aside from these three, ano pa kaya yung ating dapat i-consider, class? Aside from these three, anyone from the class? Yes, John Harrow. Yes, John Harrow.
Isa pa po na na pwedeng gawin natin sa mga bagong
pwedeng gawin para ma-engage tayo sa mga bagong client is i-check natin kung sufficient ba yung records, mga financial statements na kanilang ipapa-audit bago tayo audit po.
Yes, no? So tama po iyon. Kasi dapat natin i-check nga naman yun, dapat sufficient yung record. So that will fall under auditability of the new client. Auditable ba sila? Baka kasi hindi readily available yung financial statement or accounting data, hindi sufficient yung records, di ba? Sufficient records dapat and complete. Kasi paano natin masasabi na sufficient, appropriate, and complete yung evidences na magagather natin kung hindi rin sufficient yung records na meron si client? So, magfo-fall yun under auditability. Alright. So, meron pa po kaya? Anyone from the class? So, ito una, yung number 1 saka number 2. Ayan, emphasize natin. Yung number 1 saka number 2, this falls within our consideration doon sa client. So, number 1 and number 2, kino-consider natin ito kasi kino-consider natin si client. Ito yung kay client. Yung number 3, kino-consider natin to kasi kino-consider naman natin yung sarili natin bilang auditor sa pag-audit doon kay client. Nakukuha po ba? Ayan. Alright. So number 3. Yan yung number 3 Alright. So ano pa kaya yung iba? Anyone from the class? Ano pa kaya? So lagay natin dito. Ayan. So ito number 1. Kino-consider natin yan because we are thinking of the client. Number 2, ganun din. We are thinking of the client para sa number 2. Number 3, we are thinking of ourselves as an auditor. So, kaya natin siya kinonsider. Ayan. So, auditor. Alright. So, number 4, meron pa po kaya? Yes, Gabriel D.
Sir, yung pang 4 po siguro is yung number of personnel na meron ka or yung manpower po. Kasi, for example, kailangan mo siyang i-consider because if yung audit mo malaking company, of course, there will be a large amount of data na kailangan i-audit or information na kailangan i-audit. So it means na kailangan yung manpower mo is enough and at the same time, kaya nilang gawin yung mga tasks na ibibigay mo sa bawat isa sa kanila.
Yes, that's correct, no? So tama 'yun. Tama din yung sinabi ni Hello, class. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes po.
Yes. Okay. So yes, tama po 'yun. Tama yung sinabi na ni si Gab 'yun, no? Si Gab. Tama po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Yes. So tama yung sinabi ni Gab kasi we are also considering the ability of the auditor to serve the client independently. So here, kino-consider ulit natin yung sarili natin bilang auditor. Kaya ba natin i-serve yung client? Kaya ba ng enough manpower na yung audit team natin, engagement team natin? So remember, sorry. Remember the last time, ang tawag natin sa ating audit team ay engagement team, di ba? Kasi maraming audit team members tayo. So balikan natin ito. Saan ba natin nilagay yun? Here. So siguro, yan, ito, yan. So ito, auditor. So you are the auditor. Ikaw yung pinaka-main auditor. Ikaw yung pipirma sa financial statement. So ang tawag sa iyo kung partnership yung auditing firm, ikaw yung engagement partner. So syempre, ikaw yung engagement partner, meron kang engagement team. Diba? Kung ikaw na yung pinakamataas, ikaw na yung partner, meron kang audit manager. So yung audit manager, siya yung magsusupervise or magmamanage ng engagement team. And then yung audit manager niya, audit manager mo pala, meron siya mga audit supervisor. So depende yon sa organization kung meron silang audit supervisors. So ideally, dapat may audit supervisors. And then meron siyang senior audit associates, tapos may mga junior audit associates. So normally, sila yung sinesend or pinapapunta doon sa field work para mag-conduct ng audit. Sila yung nag-audit. Tapos si audit manager, audit supervisor, normally sila yung mag-check nung audit results, yung output na nakuha nila ng mga audit, senior audit associate saka junior audit associate. Minsan sumasama din si audit manager o kaya si audit supervisor, depende sa large or sa extent nung audit na kinakandak nung buong engagement team. Ayan. Minsan sumasama rin si engagement partner mismo, pero medyo madalang lang yon. Kasi normally si engagement partner, siya yung pinaka nagsa-sign off. Siya yung pumipirma doon sa audit report. Yan. So this is your overview of your engagement team. Siyempre, ikaw bilang auditor, kung ikaw yung pinaka-engagement partner, iisipin mo, kaya ba ng team ko? Ito lang kasi yung current staff ko ngayon or audit staff. 3 lang kami. Kasama na ako doon. Tapos medyo malaking client ito. Kaya ba naming 3 na i-audit lang ito? Yeah, na kaming 3 lang. So, syempre, kayo bilang auditor, you will check to yourself. Diba? You will check by yourself, to yourself, kung kaya ba. Diba? So, syempre, remember, you apply again. Ano yung i-apply mo bilang auditor? So you apply your, what's that? Ano yun, class? Can you still hear me?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Alright. So ano yung inyong i-apply? Kasi sabi lang natin kanina. Ano yung i-apply nyo? Whether to accept a new client or not? Yes, that's correct. You apply your professional judgment. So, syempre, depende sa inyo kung kaya nyo ba talaga o hindi. So, you apply your professional judgment here. Syempre, kung hindi mo talaga kaya at feeling mo mapapahiya ka kung hindi nyo matapos, it's better not to accept the new client. Pero kung sa tingin mo kaya mo naman, kaya niyang team ninyo kahit 3 lang kayo, go for it, diba? So, okay naman. So, yan. So, tama po yan. So, aside from that, ano pa kayo mga dapat i-consider? We have to consider as well. Ano po? Yes, Nicole. Yes, Nicole.
Sir, yung communication po nila sa previous auditor po para makakalap po ng info po.
Yes, that's correct, no? So, tama po yun. You need to consider communication with the old auditor. Yan. So, communication with the former auditor. Ayan. Communication with the former auditor. You have to consider this as well. Why do you need to consider this? So, bakit kaya natin dapat i-consider ito? Anyone from the class? Bakit natin kailangan i-consider na mag-communicate, makipag-communicate with the auditor? Bakit kaya? Anyone from the class? Yes, yes, JJ. I think
Para
si JJ.
po may heads up sa mga bagay-bagay, hindi ka magugulat dun sa pagtanggap mo dun sa client.
Yeah, so tama yun, no? So tama si JJ doon. Kailangan natin makipag-usap with the former auditor para malaman natin ano kaya yung reason bakit kaya nagpalit ng auditor si client, 'di ba? Mamaya kasi makita na na-realize natin or malaman lang natin later on na ay kaya pala nagpalit ito ng auditor si new client kasi may disagreement siya with the former auditor. So baka ganito rin yung maging scenario din namin with the client or scenario natin with the client kung tayo yung auditor, magkaroon naman tayo ng disagreement. Kasi syempre, same procedure lang naman yung gagawin natin katulad ng ginawa ng auditor na nauna nila. So syempre, kung makikita din natin yung audit findings na nakita ng auditor na yun, syempre, ganun din yung scenario. So syempre, it's better for us na aware na tayo doon sa existing disagreements ng client and with the former auditor. So, dapat natin i-consider yung communication with the former auditor. Ngayon, anong tawag sa former auditor? Anong tawag sa former auditor, class? Meron po ba? Yes, Nicole. Anong tawag natin sa former auditor?
Predecessor po.
Yes, that's correct, no? So, ang tawag natin sa former auditor ay predecessor auditor. So, kung ikaw yung, kung ang former auditor ay predecessor auditor, ano naman tawag sa inyo? Kung kayo yung bagong auditor. So, kung ang predecessor auditor, yun yung old auditor, ano naman yung tawag sa inyo? Kung kayo yung bagong auditor. Yes, Jean May.
Successor auditor po.
Yes, that's correct. Successor auditor. Ayan. So, lagay natin dito. Okay. Successor auditor. Ayan. So, the successor auditor is the new auditor. So, bakit kailangan makipag-usap, 'di ba? Bakit kailangan makipag-usap ni successor auditor, 'di ba? Bakit kaya kailangan makipag-usap ni successor auditor kay former auditor? Because nasabi na ni JJ yung kanina, para meron siyang maging siyang aware with the existing disagreements, no? So ano pa kayang iba? Yes, Nicole. Yes, Nicole. Ano pa kayang ibang dapat i-consider? Why the successor auditor needs to communicate with the predecessor auditor?
Sir, ano po, mag-a-assist po yung predecessor editor sa successor auditor in a way na yung information po ay makakatulong whether to accept or reject po yung engagement.
Yes, no? So tama po 'yun. Tama yung sinabi ni Nicole. Kasi we have to check or we have to understand why there is a change of auditor, 'di ba? Bakit kaya kailangan magpalit ng auditor ito si client? Siyempre, sasabihin ng auditor, okay naman yan, yung client na yan. Nag-change lang talaga sila ng auditor every 5 years kasi yun yung management policy nila na every 5 years, kailangan magpalit na ng auditor. Sabihin ng predecessor auditor ng client mo, naka 5 years na ako sa kanila. So since they are following the management policy, the company policy, kailangan magbago ng auditor, kayo naman. So within 5 years, kayo naman yung magiging auditor. After nan, ibabalik na naman nila ako or baka maghanap na naman sila ng bagong auditor. So syempre, doon maintindihan ninyo, wala naman palang disagreement or problems between the client and the predecessor auditor. So okay lang ito. So at the same time, habang kinakausap ninyo yung predecessor auditor, na-check nyo, nako-confirm ninyo yung integrity ng client management. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay. So, yan yung mga dapat ninyo i-consider. So, yan. Yung why are successor auditors communicating with the predecessor auditor? To check audit-related disagreements and problems between the client and predecessor auditor, to check the integrity of the client management, to understand the change of auditors. And also, syempre, responsible din yung successor auditors sa pag-communicate with the predecessor auditor. Or if there's an audit committee, kailangan nilang makipag-usap. Or tayo, kasi tayo yung successor auditor. Iniisip natin tayo yung bagong auditor. Kailangan natin makipag-usap with the predecessor auditor and the audit committee if there's an audit committee. Kasi 'di ba sa ating operations audit, meron tayong tinatawag na audit committee. So ayun, pwede natin kausapin din 'yon. Ngayon, question, pwede ba natin kausapin basta-basta si predecessor auditor? Yes or no?
No.
No po.
No, yes.
No
That's
po.
the correct answer, di ba? The answer is no. Kasi dapat ipaalam muna natin kay client na kakausapin natin si predecessor auditor. So, syempre, depende yon kay client. O sige, kausapin nyo, okay lang naman. Wala naman kaming tinatago. O kaya, pag hindi sila nag-okay, sabihin nila, ay hindi na, wag niyo na kausapin, wala namang problema, di ba? Parang sasabihin nila, ano namang magiging result? Wala na nga. Let's forget the old auditor. Let bygones be bygones, sabihin nila. So, syempre, kayo mapapaisip kayo, bakit kaya ayaw nila kaming makipag-usap with their former auditor or with their predecessor auditor? Baka merong problema. So, syempre, nagkakaroon tayo ng hint bilang successor auditor. Kaya naging problema. Baka there's something's fishy that might affect their integrity ng client management natin. So, syempre, ayun, doon pa lang, ma-check na rin natin. Nagkakaroon na tayo ng hint kung okay ba to si client or hindi. Ngayon, kapag nag-okay si client, o sige, kausapin niyo, wala naman pong problema, okay naman. Okay kami, we're still in good terms. Natapos lang talaga yung namin, ang aming engagement. Diba? So, ano naman yung responsibility ni predecessor auditor kapag kakausapin mo siya? Kung kayo yung successor auditor, ano yung responsibility ni predecessor auditor? Anyone from the class? Ano kaya yung responsibility ni predecessor auditor? Meron po ba nakakaalam? Yes, Erica.
Responsibility niya po na mag-respond po sa successor auditor po sa mga tanong niya po at mag-advise po kung itutuloy pa po ba kung yung engagement po ba ay i-accept po with his professional reason po.
Yes, that's correct, no? So tama yan. Tama yung sinabi ni Erica. Kasi ang isa sa responsibility ng predecessor auditor is to respond fully to all the incoming inquiries of the successor auditor. Bakit? Kasi yan yung nire-require ng Code of Ethics natin. Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants and Auditors. So, yan yung requirement ng Code of Ethics. If you are a predecessor auditor, required ka to respond fully to all the incoming inquiries of the successor auditor. Ayan. So, lalagay ko dito i-highlight ko ito. Respond fully. So, respond fully. So, syempre, kung kayo yung predecessor auditor, tapos, ang management policy pala ng company, every year magpapalit ng auditor. So, sayang naman, once a year lang pala ako mag-audit sa kanila. Tapos, depende pa yun kung kukunin nila ako ulit every other year. Diba? Siyempre, tayo bilang isang predecessor auditor, wag tayong mag-butthurt, diba? Na hindi tayo kinuha the following year. So, syempre, sabihin natin, ay naku, nasaktan ako. Hindi ako kinuha ng client na to. Hindi ko kakausapin yung bagong auditor. Ayoko, para hindi niya magawa na maayos yung audit niya. So, bawal yon kasi required ng Code of Ethics na mag-respond tayo fully to all the incoming inquiries of the successor auditor. So, yan yung responsibility ng predecessor auditor. And this one, these are the responsibilities of successor auditor. So, syempre, i-check natin yung mga ito. Alright. So, nakukuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Yes po.
Okay.
Yes po.
So, last pala, isama natin, possible review of the working papers of the predecessor auditor. Syempre, kung makikipag-usap kayo with the predecessor auditor, there are times na pwede nyo hingan or humingi kayo with sa predecessor auditor ng working papers nila. Kung pwede para meron kayong guide, 'di ba? Kasi syempre magkakaroon ng change in auditors. Kapag nag-present kasi kayo ng financial statement, ipe-present nyo yung previous year. Eh hindi nyo naman in-audit yung previous year. Yung nag-audit nun yung predecessor auditor. So syempre depende sa inyo kung i-accept nyo ba yung audit report nung previous auditor, nung predecessor auditor. Kung hindi, i-re-audit nyo yung previous year para masatisfy kayo bilang auditor. So syempre, kung okay na sa inyo yung ginawa ng predecessor auditor, you need to ask for working papers na ginawa ng predecessor auditor. Nakukuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Yes,
Yes
po.
po.
Alright. Now, alright. Thank you. So, tapos na tayo dito sa una nating kino-consider. Bago ba siyang client? Is it a new client? So, kung bagong client, ito yung mga dapat nating gawin. Ikalawa naman, is it a recurring client? Recurring client ba siya? Baka kasi client mo na siya dati. Client mo na siya last year, client mo ulit siya this year. 'Di ba? Meron po bang ganon? Na client mo na siya last year, client mo ulit siya this year. Kasi nagustuhan nila yung pag-audit mo. Ay, very swift sila mag-audit. Ito yung time frame, one day before the deadline na ibigay na nila sa amin. Tapos sila pa yung nag-file ng income tax return namin. So, parang sinasabi ng client nyo, sila pa yung nag-file nga ng income tax return namin kahit hindi kasama sa engagement. Dapat kami yung magfa-file, si auditor yung nag-file. Kaya okay lang yan para sila ulit mag-file. So, kukunin ulit namin sila. So, kapag recurring client, ano yung mga dapat nating i-consider? Anyone from the class? Ano yung mga dapat i-consider natin? Yes, Erica.
I-consider po na yung mga, kung may pagbabago po ba doon sa current or previous engagements na makakaapekto po sa pagpapatuloy po nung relationship. For example po, nag-expand po yung business operation, tapos yung area po na yon hindi na po kasama sa expertise nung auditor po.
That's correct, no? So, tama yun. Oh, wait lang. Can I drink water? Alright. Okay. So, tama yung sinabi ni Erica na we have to consider kung meron bang changes doon sa operation ng client. Kasi syempre tayo bilang isang auditor, kailangan natin malaman ano yung mga pagbabago doon sa client na yon. Syempre, pag nag-audit tayo once a year lang, di ba? Year-end ang audit natin. Unless na lang ang audit na pinapagawa sa atin, interim audit. Kung interim audit, okay lang din kasi nag-i-interim audit tayo. From time to time, pwedeng quarterly, pwedeng monthly, pwedeng semi-yearly or semi-annually. Diba? So, yun yung interim audit. Pero dahil normally ang external auditor nag-audit siya on a year-end, 'di ba? Approach or year-end basis. So hindi natin alam kung ano yung nangyayari within the business. So syempre, bago tayo mag-accept ng bagong engagement or audit engagement with an existing or recurring client, we have to check ano ba yung mga pagbabago with those client. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class? Can you still hear me? If you can hear me,
Yes
please
po.
press number 1. Please press number 1. Alright. Okay. So, nakikita naman. Alright. So, iintindihan naman ako. Alright. Kasi, I'm just afraid kasi mahangin dito sa amin ngayon. Baka maputol yung internet connection. Alright. So, anong tawag sa auditor kapag ikaw ay auditor ng isang recurring client? Kasi dito sa new client, ang tawag sa inyo, successor auditor. Kung kayo naman yung dating auditor, ang tawag sa inyo, predecessor auditor. Ano naman ang tawag sa inyo kung auditor kayo ng isang recurring client o yung client mo na, tapos magiging client mo ulit? Anong tawag sa inyo? You are a blank auditor. Anong klaseng auditor ka? Anong tawag sa iyo na auditor? Anyone from the class? Ano kayang tawag sa inyo? Wala pong may idea, class? Okay, so ang tawag sa inyo ay continuing auditor. So continuing auditor ang tawag sa inyo. Ngayon, kapag continuing auditor kayo, magbibigay ba kayo ng engagement letter? Kasi balikan natin dito sa una. Can you still hear me, class?
Yes,
Yes
sir.
po.
Yes po.
Yes, sir.
So, balikan natin dito sa una. Ito, kapag bago yung client, pag bago ang client, ang gagawin ng auditor, magbibigay siya ng engagement letter kapag inaccept na ni auditor. So, yan yun, di ba? Mag-a-accept siya ng bagong client, ang gagawin ni auditor, magbibigay siya ng engagement letter or proposal letter. Ngayon, kapag ikaw ay mag-audit ng recurring client, magbibigay ka ba ng audit engagement? Agad-agad. Or every year, magbibigay ka ba ng audit engagement? Yes or no? Yes, Erica.
No, sir.
No, no? So, tama po yun. Not at all times, magbibigay ka ng engagement letter or engagement proposal sa inyong recurring clients. Ang continuing auditor, magbibigay lang siya ng bagong engagement letter based on the following circumstances. Ano kaya yung mga circumstances na yon na dapat magbigay si continuing auditor ng bagong engagement letter? So anyone from the class? Yes, Christine.
Sir, kapag pag may mga revisions po or special terms sa engagement po.
That's correct, no? So tama si Christine doon. Kapag merong pagbabago sa terms of the engagement. Kasi minsan, meron tayong audit engagement or audit terms kung saan may mga special terms. Aside from the regular audit, may papagawa pa silang specialized audit, 'di ba? Or special terms doon sa audit engagement. So syempre, kung every year merong special terms sa audit engagement, kayo bilang auditor, you have to check as well kung meron bang pagbabago doon sa special terms sa audit engagement. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Yes,
Yes
po.
po, sir.
So, aside from this, sa revisions or special terms of the engagement, ano pa yung mga dapat i-consider para sa isang continuing auditor na magbibigay ng new engagement letter? Yes, John Harold.
Isa pa po ay di ba po nasabi ni Erica kanina na yung mga business ay nag-expand or yung mga may mga branches. Ito po yung mga significant changes na sa nature or size ng client's business. Kaya pwedeng mag-send ng new engagement yung auditor po.
Yes, that's correct, no? So tama po 'yon. If there are changes in the nature or size of the client's business, kailangan magbigay ang auditor ng bagong engagement letter. So remember, si ABS-CBN. So lalagay ko rito example. Ayan. Example, ABS-CBN. So si ABS-CBN, ano ba si ABS-CBN? Isa siyang broadcast network, di ba? Broadcasting network. Ayan. Broadcasting network. So yan yung nature ng business ni ABS-CBN. Broadcasting network siya. Pero ngayon, ano yung sabi sa balita? Si ABS-CBN is no longer a broadcasting network kasi wala na nga siyang wala na siyang franchise. Nakukuha po ba? Tama po ba? Wala nang franchise si ABS-CBN?
Opo.
Yes po.
Yes, di ba? Wala na siyang franchise. So, ang sabi sa balita, ABS-CBN is no longer a broadcasting network. Ang pinaregister na nila ngayon sa SEC, isa na silang content creator. So, content creator na si ABS-CBN. So, malamang kung kayo si auditor, kung kayo yung auditor ng ABS-CBN, you have to submit a new audit engagement letter or new proposal engagement letter kasi nagkaroon ng change sa nature yung business ni ABS-CBN. Nakukuha po ba? As well as with the size ng ABS-CBN. Kasi dati big broadcasting network sila. Pero dahil nag-stop sila ng operation, napilitan silang mag-lay off ng mga employee. So nag-downsize sila from this big network, marami silang regional sites or regional areas. Ano bang tawag doon? Yung mga region. Sabihin natin, Batanes region. ABS-CBN Batanes. So anong tawag doon sa ABS-CBN sa GMA7? Mga regional TVs nila. Ayun, TV networks. Regional TV stations. So, syempre, nag-downsize sila. Dati may mga regional TV stations sila. Ngayon, na-reduce na, na-limit na dahil hindi na kaya mag-operate dahil wala na talaga silang franchise, di ba? So, syempre, kayo bilang auditor, dahil nag-downsize sila, lumiit yung size ng client's business, you have to give a new engagement letter. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay, so aside from this, ano pa yung dapat natin i-consider? Yes, Shelly. Yes, Shelly, can you still hear me?
Sir, kapag meron din pong pagbabago sa top level management or board of directors po.
Yes, that's correct, no? So if there are changes in the senior management, board of directors, or owners of the entity, required tayo bilang isang continuing auditor to give a new engagement letter or audit engagement. Bakit? Sabihin natin, previously, last year, sabihin natin, last year 2020, si Chelly May ang president ng PLDT, di ba? Sabihin natin, si Chelly May ang president ng PLDT last 2020. Ang auditor noon si Nicole Ann. Ngayon, this year, 2021, ang president na pala ng PLDT is no longer Chelly May, but it is Luella. Si Luella na yung owner yung president, pinaka-president ng PLDT. So, syempre, kayo, kung ikaw ang auditor, you need to give or to provide a new engagement letter. Bakit? Kasi doon sa engagement letter mo, naka-address pa si Shelly May. Pero dapat, supposedly, ang president na ang i-address nyo na si Luella. So, ganun po yun. Nakukuha po ba? Ganun din kapag may changes sa board of directors. So, particularly yung mga large corporations. Di ba itong mga large corporations na ito or mga publicly listed corporations, normally nagkakaroon yan palagi ng pagbabago sa board of directors. Kasi merong mga stockholders na naka-acquire ng mas maraming shares. The following year, ibinenta. So, bago na naman yung board of directors. Bago na naman yung na-appoint. Bago na naman yung board members. So, syempre, from time to time, every year, dapat magbigay ka ng bagong engagement letter kasi nagbabago yung board of directors. Ganun din kapag mayroong changes sa ownership. Sabihin natin, past 15 years ago, ang pinakamay-ari ng PLDT ay sino? Aware po ba kayo? O sino yung previous owners ng PLDT? Aware po ba kayo, class?
Hindi po.
Hindi po. So,
Hindi
alright.
po.
Okay, so that's correct, no? So, ayan. So, ang dating president, diba? Ang dating pinaka-chairman pala, no, not president. Pinaka-chairman, pinaka-may-ari ng company previous 15 years ago, si Danding Coangco. I think that's Coangco. Tapos, after that, si Mr. Manny Pangilinan. Siya na yung pinaka malaki yung share. Diba? Siya na yung pinakamalaking shares sa PLDT. So, syempre, kung kayo yung auditor ni PLDT, nakita nyo si MVP na, Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan na yung pinaka major stockholder ng PLDT. So, malamang nagkaroon ng changes in ownership. So, kayo bilang auditor, you have to provide new engagement letter. Syempre, personal opinion ko ito. Kung magbibigay kayo ng new engagement letter, dapat ilagay nyo doon yung pangalan ng bagong major stockholder or yung bagong chairman. Kasi kung ang ilalagay ninyo yung pangalan pa rin ng dating chairman, syempre madi-disappoint yun or ma-offend yun. Sasabihin niya, ako na yung nandito, ako na yung chairman, tapos inilalagay mo pa rin yung dating chairman. So sabihin niya ng chairman, ay wag natin kunin to bilang auditor para nakaka-insulto. Yung dating chairman pa rin yung kinikilala imbis na ako si MVP. So ganun yung sinasabi no. Parang yun yung dating. Kaya dapat magbigay tayo ng bagong engagement letter. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class? Can you still
Yes,
hear
po.
me? Alright.
Yes,
So,
po.
isa sa reason why do we need to give a new engagement letter. So, ano pa kaya yung mga ibang reasons bakit kailangan ng continuing auditor magbigay ng bagong engagement letter? Yes, Carlos.
Sir, kapag may mga mga bagong legal or regulatory requirements.
Yes, that's correct, no? So if there are changes in the legal requirements or government requirement. So like for example, this year kapapasa lang nung CREATE, 'di ba? Nung Corporate Recovery and Enterprise Incentives Act, 'di ba? So that's CREATE. So since nagkaroon ng bagong legal requirements or laws, 'di ba? Dahil maapektuhan ng ating audit engagement terms, ang ating agreement within the engagement letter, we have to provide a new engagement letter. Particularly kapag nakaka-affect siya doon sa ating operation sa pag-audit. Nakukuha po ba? Pero kung may lumabas na Magna Carta for Women, sabi natin, a new and revised Magna Carta for Women. Since auditor tayo at ang ino-audit natin is a juridical entity na wala namang gender, so hindi tayo magbibigay ng bagong engagement letter kasi hindi naman affected yung ating engagement letter. So doon lang tayo sa legal requirements, newly passed laws, government requirements na makaka-affect sa ating conduct of the audit. So nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes.
Yes po.
Alright. Ngayon, meron ding batas na Tax Management in Incentive Act. So TIMTA law. Yung TIMTA law na yon nung napasa, nagbigay ng bagong engagement letter lahat ng auditors. Kasi makaka-apekto yon sa audit process or audit conduct of the audit ng mga auditors. Kasi yung TIMTA is a report. Diba? TIMTA yon, Tax Management and Incentives Act. So TIMTA, basta ganun yon. So ngayon, required lahat ng mga taxpayers or lahat ng mga corporations na magpasa ng TIMTA, particularly kapag PEZA registered saka BOI registered corporations or enterprises. So required sila. So since maapektuhan itong mga klase ng corporation na ito, kung ikaw yung auditor, you have to provide for new engagement letter. So yun po yun. Ano pa kaya yung mga dapat nating i-consider? Yes, Dave. Yes, Dave.
Kapag po nagkaroon ng indication na na-misunderstand ng client yung objectives and scope of the audit.
Yes, no? So tama po 'yon. So if there are, so lagay natin dito. Okay. So if there are previous misunderstanding, diba? Previous misunderstandings in the scope of audit and terms of the engagement. So, kailangan din natin i-consider ito para ma-address properly yung previous misunderstandings dun sa scope of audit. Kasi ang nilagay lang natin bilang auditor, ito yung standard scope of audit, scope of work process natin bilang auditor. Pero si client, ay gusto ko kasi may ganito pa. So, iniisip namin, may ganito sa scope ng audit procedure mo, pero hindi mo nagawa. Siyempre kayo bilang auditor, sumusunod lang po kami doon sa pinirmahan nating engagement letter. Tapos i-quote and quote nyo po, pinirmahan nating engagement letter. So, siyempre, safe na kayo doon bilang auditor kasi yung pinirmahan, yun yung ginawa ninyo. You cannot do more than that. Kung pwede kayong gumawa more than that, then that will be included in your value-added services. So, yeah. So, ito yung mga normal. Meron pang isa. Last one is, if there is an expiration of time or time period in an engagement letter. Yung iba kasing engagement letter, merong period lang. Sabihin natin, every 5 years. Kasi yun yung company policy. Every 5 years magpapalit ng bagong auditor. Siyempre kapag nagpalit ng bagong auditor, na-expire na yung engagement letter mo. Then after another 5 years, natapos na din, kayo na ulit yung auditor nila. So, you have to consider of giving a new engagement. Kasi syempre kayo, after 5 years na yon, baka mataas na yung professional fee ninyo, baka may nagbago na sa management ng client, sa board of directors or sa owners, baka nag-increase na rin sila ng size or nagkaroon ng changes in nature of the business, at meron na sigurong naipasang bagong batas, 'di ba? Or new legal requirements or government requirements. So, ayun, yung mga dapat ninyong i-consider when giving a new engagement letter if you are a continuing auditor auditing a recurring client. Nakukuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Alright. Okay. So, ito yung mga dapat natin i-consider when accepting an audit engagement. Una, bagong client ba siya? Or ikalawa, recurring client ba siya? So, ito yung mga dapat natin i-check from our end kasi iba-iba yung ating approach, di ba? Kung continuing auditor tayo, alam na natin, aware na tayo, magbibigay lang tayo ng new audit engagement letter kapag may pagbabago. Kapag bagong client talaga siya mismo, successor auditor yung tawag sa inyo, so syempre, ano yung mga dapat nyo pang gawin or steps na dapat gawin or responsible kayo na dapat gawin? Kasi you have to understand fully yung nature ng business. Baka nga pwede nyo kausapin si predecessor auditor or dapat nyo siyang kausapin. Diba? Provided na dapat nagpapaalam tayo with the client, nakakausapin natin si predecessor auditor. So these are the things that we need to consider when accepting a new client subject for audit. All right. So now, balikan natin yung PSA 210. Si PSA 210 kasi meron siyang tinatawag na Preconditions of Audit. So, lagay natin dito. Ayan. So, maglalagay ako rito. Ayan. meron tayong tinatawag na preconditions for an audit. So yung preconditions for an audit na yon, ito yung mga dapat natin i-consider pag-conduct ng audit or bago i-accept yung audit. So ano ba yung preconditions? Anyone from the class, ano kaya yung preconditions? Ano po yung preconditions, class? Anyone? Ano kaya yung preconditions? Yes, Gab. Yes, Gab. What do we mean by preconditions?
Sir, pag sinabi pong precondition, from the word pre, which means before pa. So ito po yung mga condition na dapat ma-fulfill bago po isagawa or i-undergo yung mga things na dapat magawa o yung mga processes na kailangan i-follow po.
Yes, no? So preparatory. So sabihin natin preparatory or requisites. So yun pala yung sinasabi for preconditions of an audit. So lagay natin dito, i-merge ko siya lahat. Ayan. So preconditions for an audit. Kasi according to PSA 210, the auditor shall establish whether preconditions for an audit is present. So paano natin masasabi na yung mga preconditions na yon are present doon? So una, we have to determine whether the financial reporting framework to be applied is acceptable. So dapat pala natin i-check kung yung financial reporting framework na ginagamit ng client natin acceptable. Kasi sabihin natin si new client, they are using US GAAP framework. Ayan. US GAAP framework ang ginagamit ni bagong client. Tapos sabihin natin, sige po, US GAAP po yung ginagamit ninyo for internal reporting purposes. Pero kasi po, kapag nag-submit na po kami sa SEC, naka-PFRS po siya. Dapat PFRS po. So, ibabaguhin po namin yung inyong audit report, yung inyong financial statements, gagawin namin siyang PFRS-based. So, sasabihin ni new client, ay hindi pwede kasi US GAAP yung ginagamit din ng parent company namin. So, dapat US GAAP yung gamitin ninyo. Yan yung sabi ng client sa auditor, sa atin bilang auditor. So, syempre kayo bilang auditor, ano ba dapat yung sundin natin? US GAAP or PFRS? Ano yung dapat natin sundin, class? Can you still hear me, class?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay ha? So, wag kayo malito. Ano yung dapat nating sundin? US GAAP or PFRS?
PFRS.
PFRS.
PFRS po.
PFRS. Kasi, bakit PFRS yung dapat nating sundin? Kasi yun yung requirement ng regulatory body natin dito sa Philippines. Yung SEC. Yung bagong client natin, domestic corporation siya. Yun nga lang, may parent company siya sa US that is using US GAAP. Ngayon, mandated ng parent company niya na, uy, subsidiary namin kayo, gumamit kayong US GAAP. So, US GAAP ginagamit nila for accounting. Ngayon, syempre, kapag pina-audit na yan, dapat ma-convert yon to PFRS. I-convert natin siya to PFRS. So, kapag hindi pumayag si new client na ay dapat US GAAP lang po talaga, hindi pwedeng PFRS. So, kayo bilang auditor, mag-iisip na kayo. Do I really need to accept this client for audit? Kasi parang hindi siya pumapayag, dapat maging PFRS based yung financial statement nila. So, yan. So, isa yan sa precondition. Ikalawa, you have to obtain the agreement or signed agreement that the management acknowledges and understand its responsibilities. So you have to consider na dapat nakasecure ka na merong pirmahan na naganap na na iintindihan ng management yung kanyang responsibility pagdating sa financial statement. Ano pa yung dapat na maging preconditions? Preparation of financial statement must be in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Internal control is the responsibility of the management and is necessary to the detection and prevention of errors and fraud. The auditor has the access to the information of which the management is aware that is relevant to the preparation of the financial statements. So yan yung normally na ating chine-check as preconditions for audit. So kung mapapansin nyo, yung number 1 saka number 2, kung mapapansin nyo yung number 1 at number 2, sila yung left indent. Indented sila at the left side kasi sila yung dalawa na normally dapat natin i-consider for preconditions of an audit. And then 3, 4, 5, nakadikit ito dito sa number 2. Yung 3, 4, and 5. So yan yung dalawa nating dapat i-consider. Alright. So, i-check natin dito. Check natin dito sa kay success. So, ayan. So, dapat nating i-check. Hindi pa tayo nasabi. Number 5. So, ilagay natin dito. Ayan. Applicability of the financial reporting framework used by the client as suitable criteria. So, ito yung mga dapat nating i-check, di ba? Kay when accepting a new client, integrity of the client, auditability of a new client, competence of the auditor, ability to serve the audit client independently, applicability of the financial reporting framework used by the client as a suitable criteria, and then communication with the former auditor. So, ito po, yan nakalagay dyan, applicability of the financial reporting framework used by the client as a suitable criteria. Kino-consider natin siya under PSA 10 kasi nga, isa yon sa preconditions for an audit. Isa yon sa preconditions for an audit. Alright, class, can you still hear me? If you can hear me, please press number 2. Alright, so nakikinig pa rin naman ang lahat. Alright, okay. So let's go now here sa drafting. Drafting an engagement letter. So magda-draft tayo ng engagement letter. So kino-consider kasi natin yung sarili natin bilang auditor na mismo, no? So inalis muna natin ang ating pagkakakilanlan bilang accountant. So tayo muna bilang auditor. Siyempre, kapag may i-accept na tayong bagong client, may lumapit sa atin. May lumapit sa atin isang client. Uy, audit mo naman kami. Ikaw yung pinakamagaling daw ngayon na auditor. Tapos, siyempre, ikaw na-impress ka naman na napangiti ka kasi sinasabi nila, ikaw daw yung pinakamagaling na auditor. So, sabihin mo, sige, mag-iisip ako muna. After 3 seconds, okay, kukunin na kita as new client. So, magda-draft na kayo ng bagong engagement letter. So, ano yung mga parts or normally na dapat nandoon sa isang engagement letter? So, ano po kaya yon? Ano yung una? Anyone from the class? Yes, Gab.
Sir, of course, yung pinakauna po is yung objective po ng audit ng financial statement, which we all know is to express an opinion po for the financial statement in all material aspect.
Yes, that's correct, no? So tama po yung sinabi ni Gab. Dapat natin ilagay yung objective of the audit. Kasi doon natin sineset, di ba? Sineset natin, ini-establish natin between the agreement of the auditor and the client kung ano ba talaga yung main objective of the audit being conducted, yung ginagawa natin bilang isang auditor. Siyempre, kailangan ma-establish yun. Kasi yun yung pipirmahan ninyo. Yun yung inyong gagawin. Yun yung purpose. Baka kasi akala ng iba yung gagawin yung procedure. Na, akala namin pag in-audit, i-check nyo kung merong fraud na nangyari. Tapos syempre, meron kayong pinirmahang kontrata. Yung engagement letter, sasabihin nyo, kayo bilang auditor, ay hindi po, nakasulat po sa engagement letter, ito po yung main objective namin. Magbibigay kami ng opinion sa inyo kung fair ba or fairly stated ba yung financial statement. Isa po yun sa sinabi namin under the engagement letter na hindi namin kayang i-detect or i-prevent kung may fraud, di ba? Kung kaya na, pwede kaming gumawa or mag-design ng audit procedures to detect the fraud, but we cannot detect the fraud itself. Diba? Lalo pa kung medyo mabigat yung fraud na ginawa. So, syempre, doon pa lang, sa engagement letter pa lang, maayos na, na-set na yung objective. Alright. So, ano pa kaya yung ibang parts ng isang engagement letter? Anyone from the class? Ano pa kaya yung ibang parts ng engagement letter? Anyone from the class? Yes, Sophia.
Sir, sunod po is yung responsibilities of the auditor. Dito po, maaari po mailagay ng auditor kung ano po yung procedure na gagawin nila para po makuha po yung judgment and yung assessment po ng risk. Yun po, sir.
So that's correct, no? So tama si Sophia. Kailangan ilagay yung management's responsibility. So responsibility ng management. Kasi doon may establish naman ano yung mga dapat gawin ng management. Ano yung responsibility niya pagdating sa financial statement. So responsibility as to preparation of the financial statements. So doon ay establish natin na kayo management, responsibility nyo na kayo yung mag-prepare ng financial statement. Ako, auditor ako, sabihin nyo, di ba? Auditor po kami, hindi po kami accountant ninyo. So, yung financial statement dapat readily available na po yun. Ang magko-construct dapat ng financial statement, kayo po bilang management, yung accountant nyo po. So, hindi kami. So, yan po yan. So, dapat maset din, mailagay sa engagement letter yung management's responsibility. Ano pa kaya yung dapat ilagay sa engagement letter? Anyone from the class? Ano pa yung dapat ilagay, class? Anyone? Yes, Vanessa.
Yung ano po sir, billing arrangement po. Dito na po nagpa-pertain yung sa bayad po, yung magiging process po ng pagbabayad.
That's correct, no? So tama din. Tama iyon. That will be included as additional information. The billing arrangement. Siyempre sa billing arrangement, doon natin ilalagay, meron bang down payment? Magkano yung final payment? Kung maliit lang naman yung babayaran ni client, baka okay na one-time payment na lang kapag katapos na ng audit. O kaya yung ibang auditor ay gusto pa rin namin ng down payment para may mobilization. So, syempre meron kaming panggalaw kung tayo yung auditor. So, yan, kasama yung billing arrangement. So, aside from that, ano pa kaya yung mga dapat isama sa pag-draft ng isang engagement letter? Yes, John Harold.
Isa din po ay kung may objective po yung audit ay meron din po tayong scope na siyang yung siyang magsisilbing hangganan kung saan kung hanggang saan yung audit po.
That's correct, no? So tama si John Harold doon. Kasi yung scope of the audit will set the scope of work, di ba? So it will set the scope of audit work of the auditor. Kasi baka kapag walang scope of audit, iniisip ng ibang client, ay dapat in-audit mo rin yung namin, yung business functions ng company namin, 'di ba? Dapat in-audit niyo po yung kung paano nag-operate yung production team kasi yun yung ine-expect namin sa inyo. Pero syempre kayo bilang external auditor, sabihin niyo ay hindi po ang in-audit po kasi namin yung financial statement. Hindi po namin ino-audit yung mga business functions mismo. Ang nag-audit po niyan, internal auditor, baka operations audit po yung sinasabi ninyo. External audit po kami. So, syempre, dun sa scope of the audit, nakaset out doon lahat ng mga scope of audit work na dapat gawin ng auditor. So, kaya dapat nakalagay din yung scope of the audit. So, ano pa po kaya yung mga dapat ilagay when drafting an engagement letter? Anyone from the class? Yes, yes po. Yes, Eric.
Yung responsibility po ng client to provide or i-allow po yung auditor na ma-access yung mga information na kailangan po for the audit po.
Ayun. So, tama pala. Si Stacy pala. So, tama yon. Kasama po yon yung to give unrestricted access to the auditor to whatever records, documents, and other information requested. Kasi, syempre, kung kayo yung auditor at magkakandak kayo ng audit, tapos limited lang yung makikita ninyong documents, nagkandak pa kayo ng audit. Diba? Nagkandak pa kayo ng audit. O kaya sabihan nyo na lang yung client ninyo, pinag-audit nyo pa po kami kung limited lang naman yung makikita namin. So, hindi po pwede yung ganon. Dapat, kapag nagkakanda kayo ng audit, malaya kayo na makakuha ng information na gusto ninyong i-audit. So, tama dun si Stacy. Dapat kasama doon sa agreement yung unrestricted access to whatever records, documentations, and other information na ni-request ni auditor. So aside from this, ano pa po kaya yung mga dapat kasama? Yes, Shinali.
Sabi niyo nga po sir, meron pong mga limitations ang audit. So meron po siyang mga unavoidable risk na mga material misstatements na hindi pa po na-discover.
Yes, that's correct. No? So tama si Shinali. So dapat i-set up or i-set out natin yung limitations ng audit. Kasi syempre, ano ba yung binibigay nating opinion? Absolute pa yung opinion na binibigay natin? Class?
Hindi po.
Hindi, di ba? Reasonable assurance lang. We can say it's absolute, it's high but not absolute, 'di ba? So hindi tayo nagbibigay ng absolute assurance. We only give reasonable assurance. Other term, high but not absolute assurance. So syempre dahil reasonable lang yung assurance na ibibigay natin dahil sa mga limitations sa pagkandak ng audit. Because of these limitations, we cannot, 'di ba? We cannot guarantee that the financial statement is free from errors, fraud, and non-compliance. So we cannot tell that to our clients na your financial statement is not only fairly presented, but it is guaranteedly free from any errors, fraud, and non-compliance. We don't do that here, di ba? Bakit? Kasi reasonable assurance lang ang ating ibinibigay. So that's why we need to include in drafting an engagement letter the limitations of an audit. So ano pa kaya mga dapat ibigay or ilagay sa isang engagement letter? Anyone from the class? Anyone from the class? Anyone from the class? Yes, Carlos.
Sir, form other documents or reports na pwedeng i-issue ng auditor during the audit process.
Yes, that's correct. So naiintindihan pa, naririnig po ba ako?
Yes po sir.
Yes po sir.
Okay. So tama yung sinabi ni Carlos. We have to include the forms or any reports or other communications that the auditor is expected to issue. Para doon pa lang, ma-set out na nag-audit kami ng financial statement ninyo. Ito yung report na ibibigay namin sa inyo. No more, no less. So para hindi na mag-expect more than that si client. So tama po yun. So ano pa yung mga dapat na ilagay when drafting an engagement letter? Ano pa po kaya? Yes, Jean May.
Sir, yung yung financial reporting framework use po. Kasi katulad po ng sinabi nyo kanina, kapag US GAAP po yung ginagamit ng isang entity na magpapa-audit po, baka hindi mo po tanggapin yung isang hindi ka po mag-engage sa isang audit po.
Yes, that's correct. No? So tama doon. Tama yung sinabi ni Jean na kailangan iset na natin ito yung framework na gagamitin namin kasi ito yung required ng regulatory body natin. So, kailangan ilagay natin sa engagement letter kung ano yung framework. So, aside from this, ano pa po kaya yung mga dapat ilagay sa isang engagement letter? Anyone from the class? I think Yes, Kathleen.
Time period din po ng engagement po. Like for example, yung kung hanggang kailan lang po yung magiging audit engagement po. At yung confirmation po ng client na nag-agree siya sa nakapaloob sa engagement letter po.
Yes, that's correct, no? Confirmation of the terms of the engagement, pati yung expectation kung kailan makukuha yung audit report, yung representation letter, management representation letter. So, syempre, kailangan nakaset na doon sa engagement letter lahat-lahat. So, tama yung sinabi ni Kathleen. So, meron pa po yata iba. So, last one yata. Last one. So, what is the last one? Anyone? Yes, Ga.
Sir, if for example po merong mga may involved na external people, so kailangan din po yung arrangements po na ilagay din po dun sa engagement letter.
Tama po yun. No? So, arrangements concerning the involvement of other experts. So, remember what I said, di ba? We cannot be a jack of all trades. Hindi tayo pwedeng maging jack of all trades. Although we are accountant, we are very flexible. Pwede nga tayong ilagay sa HR kasi marunong tayo mag-compute ng payroll, marunong tayo sa labor law, pwede rin tayo sa marketing, di ba? Pwede tayo mag-compute ng financial information doon sa market data, market research. So tayo very flexible tayo. Pwede rin tayo sa IT kasi meron tayong auditing in EDP, di ba? Auditing EDP, auditing CIS. So pwede tayo sa IT. Pwede rin tayo sa legal, sa data compliance. So very flexible ang mga accountant. However, kailangan meron tayong specific expertise na dapat nating i-hone, i-craft. Kasi we cannot be a jack of all trades. Yung jack of all trades, you are a master of none, di ba? Alam mo lahat, pero hindi ka master, hindi ka expert, hindi ka matatawag na expert for that. No? So, kung ang expertise nyo ay audit, doon kayo sa audit. Kung expertise nyo ay business analytics, doon kayo sa business analytics. Kung expert nyo ay tax, doon kayo sa tax. Kung expert nyo ay accounting, bookkeeping, doon kayo sa accounting and bookkeeping. So, syempre, pag nakagraduate na kayo, meron kayong pag-focusan na isang field ng accounting and audit. Kukuha po ba? Now, syempre, dahil meron kayong isang expertise, sabihin natin audit yung expertise ninyo, hindi nyo masasabi sa sarili ninyo na expert din kayo sa ibang bagay. Like, for example, pag-a-appraise ng property. So, kung auditor kayo, di ba? Sabihin natin now, auditor na kayo. Merong mga properties ang client, mga real properties. So, syempre, kailangan i-appraise yung real properties nila, yung mga properties ng client. Kailangan yun ng independent appraiser. So, pwede bang kayo na lang din yung independent appraiser? Yes or no? Can you still hear me, class? Kung kayo yung auditor, dapat kayo rin ba yung maging independent appraiser? Kayo na yung magka-appraise ng property? Di ba hindi? Kaya nga tinawag na independent appraiser. So, syempre, kailangan nyo ng expert's opinion pagdating doon sa mga particular audit ng isang asset. So, lagyan natin dyan, e.g. independent, yan, independent appraisers. Ayan. Okay, ano pa yung mga example ng other experts? Actuaries. Ano yung mga actuaries naman? Yung mga actuaries, sila yung nagbibigay or nagko-compute ng employee benefits. Diba? Na dapat i-record sa financial statement. So, syempre kayo, nagko-compute kayo ng employee benefits. Nagko-compute kayo ng employee benefits under PAS 19. Di ba PAS 19 yon yung employee benefits? Tama po ba? Can you still remember that class? So, what's the
Yes
PAS
po.
for? So, PAS 19, revised, no? PAS 19 are employee benefits. So, ginagawa natin yung computation na yon. However, there is someone who is really expert in the computation of employee benefits. Ang tawag sa kanila, actuaries. So, mga nag-actuarial valuation. Sila yung gumagawa ng actuarial valuation. So, tayo, sinusunod natin yung computation ng employee benefits under PAS 19. Sila, expert talaga sila doon. Alam nila kung paano gamitin yung yung projectile method, 'di ba? Na pinag-aaralan din or nabanggit doon sa PAS 19. Tayo, aware lang tayo na yun yung method na ginagamit. Pero hindi natin alam kung paano gawin. Kasi ang alam natin, nakalagay siya sa PAS 19. Diba? Pero yung actuaries, mga gumagawa ng actuarial valuation, alam nila yon kung paano gawin yung projectile method. So, kailangan natin ng expert pagdating doon. So, hindi tayo doon. Ano pa? Yung mga experts na kailangan natin, legal. So, mga lawyers, so legal experts, syempre sila yung mas nakakaalam. Lalo na kapag merong lawsuit na kinakaharap ang isang company, hindi naman pwede na tayo yung bilang auditor, yung babayaran nyo siguro dyan mga 20 million. Hindi nyo naman pwedeng sabihin na ganon. Kailangan nyo ng expert's opinion, yung mga lawyer mismo. Sabihin ng lawyer, based kasi sa revised penal code or sa ganitong special law, ito yung range ng babayaran ninyo. So, syempre, sila, may reference sila. Tayo, hindi pwedeng gawa-gawa na lang natin or wala na tayong time para mag-search for the legal citations, di ba? So, just leave it to the experts for this. So, this is a complete draft or parts of drafting an engagement letter. So, ito yung mga dapat nating normal na nakikita sa isang engagement letter. Nakukuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Opo, sir.
Yes po, sir.
So let me stop presenting. I will reshare my screen para ipakita ko sa inyo yung isang example ng engagement letter. Para kahit pa paano, meron tayong visualization. May visualization tayo na, ganyan pala yung itsura ng engagement letter. Please let me know if you can see my screen now, class.
Opo, sir.
Alright. So, nakikita na po ng aking mga estudyante yung, ayan. Alright. So, proposal draft. So, hanap ako ng proposal draft. So, let me just check. Ayan. This one. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So, can you see my screen? Can you still see my screen, class?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay, ayan. So, this is my engagement letter with one of my clients. So, yung client ko is Masters Vineyard Academy. Ang tawag na sa kanya ngayon, MVA Colleges. So, it's a non-stock corporation school. Yan. So, proposal for FS audit. So, tignan natin dito sa ating drafting an engagement letter. So, kailangan daw pala, dapat merong objectives of the audit. So, kailangan dito rin sa ating ginawang engagement letter, dapat meron din doong objectives ng audit. So, papakita natin, check natin kung meron ba talaga. Dapat masunod. Yan. So, here, this is the scope of the audit. Makikita nyo dyan yung objectives of the audit. Ito po yun. So, the objectives of our audit are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with PSA will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. So material misstatements or misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users on the basis of these financial statements. So ito yung objective na sinasabi natin dito. So check, so lagay natin, highlight natin kung okay na. Ayan. So highlight pa natin. Ayan. Alright. So na-identify na natin yung scope of the audit. Okay, scope of work, 'di ba? Scope of the audit work. So yan din 'yan, scope of the audit work. Ano ba yung scope ng work natin? So nandito na rin 'yon. Ayan. So we will conduct our audit in accordance with PSA. So yan po yung scope of audit. Siyempre in accordance with PSA dahil yun yung ating standard, 'di ba? Philippine Standards on Auditing. Those standards require that we comply with ethical requirements. As part of an audit in accordance with PSA, we exercise professional judgment. So 'di ba? Laging nakalagay yung professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism. So ito mababanggit na lagi rin ito sa ating discussion, professional skepticism. So ano pa? We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statement. So yan yung mga scope. Obtain an understanding of internal control, evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies, conclude the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting. Tapos ayan pa, evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statement. So, nailagay rin natin yung scope ng audit. Next one, management's responsibility. So, check natin kung meron ditong management's responsibility. Baka kasi wala. Ayan, management's responsibilities and representation. So, nakalagay din pala. So, kasama dapat sa pag-draft ng engagement letter, yung management's responsibility. Actually, dito sa engagement letter na pinapakita ko sa inyo, sinet out yung responsibility ng management as to preparation of the financial statements, compliance with laws and regulations, saka keeping updated books, pati preparation ng income tax return and general form of financial statements. So yeah, so kasama yung management's responsibility. Tapos ito rin, required assistance from the company. So we emphasize that our ability to complete our work on a timely basis is dependent on the following assumption. So ibig sabihin na isama na rin ito na magbibigay ng unrestricted access to whatever records or documents and other information requested ni auditor. So ayan po. Alright. Okay, so ano pa? Hinahanap natin. Limitations of the audit. So since i-check natin dito, ayan. Scope of the work. So purpose of the audit and limitation. So meron palang limitation din. So nasa kayong limitation dito. Hanapin natin yung limitation. Ayan, ito yung limitation. So nakikita pa po ba class? Can you still see my screen?
Yes po, sir.
Yes po, sir.
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. So, ito yung limitation. Because of the test nature and other inherent limitations of an audit, together with the inherent limitations of any accounting and internal control system, there is an unavoidable risk that even some material misstatement or irregularities may remain undiscovered. Moreover, an audit is not designed to detect fraud or insignificant error to the financial statements. However, any matter of governance interest that may come to our attention in the course of the audit will, of course, be reported to the management and the audit committee or others of equivalent authority or responsibility. So at least na-set out din natin na merong limitation sa pag-conduct ng audit. Alright, so check pa natin. Financial reporting framework to be used. Check natin, baka kasi wala dito. Okay. Financial reporting framework to be used. Hanapin natin. Ayan, dito muna tayo. Reports pala. Yan, yung reports. So, the forms or any reports or other communication that the auditor expects to issue. So, kasama din siya. Ito yung report. Ano yung report na ibibigay natin? Independent auditor's report, saka management letter. Ayan. So, yung management letter pala dito, expectations of receiving management representation letter kasama din. Alright. Okay. So, check pa natin. Ayan, kasama rin yung engagement team. Kung sino yung normaling point of contact, siya yung dapat ilagay. Okay. Ayan. Alright. Hanapin natin yung PFRS, yung framework. Hanapin lang po natin. Kasi wala. Ayan, merong framework. Ayan. Preparation of the financial statements. Okay, yan. So may framework. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements in accordance with accounting framework indicated in the scope of work section. So ibig sabihin nasa scope of work section yung reporting framework. Hanapin natin doon sa scope of work. So scope of work, ayan. So ito pala, sorry. Nakasulat dito. In accordance with the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards for small and medium-sized entities. So lumalabas ang client na ito under siya ng PFRS for SMEs. So dapat nakaset out din yung financial reporting framework na dapat gawin or dapat sundin. Ayan. Okay, so okay na tayo lahat. For additional information, na-set out na rin yung expectation of receiving management representation letter. Ano pa? Billing arrangement. So check natin kung may billing arrangement. Okay. So yeah. All right. Reports, engagement team, professional fees. So ayan. So nakalagay yung professional fees. Meron pa dito aside from professional fees, nakalagay yung out-of-pocket expenses. Non-standard out-of-pocket expenses excluded from out-of-pocket expenses and professional fees identified above. Yan. All right. Tapos, yung billing arrangements, kung paano babayaran. So, syempre nakalagay din dito, we propose to bill you based on the following schedule. Upon acceptance, 50%. So, that is the down payment. And then, final billing, which is the final payment. Okay, the above fee arrangement contemplates that the company will provide help by way of keeping updated news. All right, okay. So, going back, okay na tayo sa billing arrangements. Ano pa? Arrangements concerning the involvement of experts. Hanapin natin, baka wala rin dito. Experts. So, walang expert. So, check natin. Unahin muna natin ito. Confirmation of the terms of engagement. Confirmation. Check natin kung nasaan yung... sige, confirmation na lang muna. Confirmation of the terms of engagement. So yung confirmation of the terms of engagement, ito yung confirmation. Dito sila pipirma. Yan, conform. Nakukuha po ba? Sa conform, dito ilalagay. Dito pipirma yung responsible officer, yung position niya, tapos yung date. Nakikita pa po ba class? Nakikita pa po?
Yes po, sir.
Doon ilalagay yung confirmation. Ngayon, sir, i-refer natin yon dito sa terms of business engagement. So, hanapin natin yung terms of business engagement. Andito siya, standard terms and conditions. So, hanapin natin yung standard terms and conditions or terms of business engagement. Yung ibang tawag na terms of business engagement. All right. So, yeah. Ayan, standard terms of business of this engagement letter. So, nandito nakalagay yung standard terms of business of this engagement. So, kasama din yung, ayan, yung sa terms of engagement. All right. Okay. So, hanapin na lang natin yung isa. Hanapin ko lang Responsibility, internet, confidentiality. Okay. So, hanapin natin. Baka nasa scope of work din siya. Okay. Conclude. Ayan. Okay, we communicate, matters plan, scope timing, findings. Okay. SEC. Okay. Relating discussion. Okay. Value-added services. Representation. Management responsible. Claim offer. Okay. Charge. Governance. Okay. As part of the audit process. Key preparation. Required assistance from the company. Company. Books of accounts, trial balance, subsidiary, required schedules, account, complete accurate listings, confidentiality and non-disclosure, reports, management ref reports. Okay. Out of pocket. All right. Auditors, other fee matters. Time spent distribute. Okay, wala naman yan. Di ba yan? Other services. Ayan, ito. So, dito nag-fall kasi siya. So, sa other services. Kasi dahil sa net out namin na naka-audit lang. Sa audit lang talaga yung service namin. Nilagay dito. Special services required, extended work or research or a written opinion or report which may be performed at your request such as conduct or submissions of all right. Ayan, tax opinions or studies contesting tax assessment, certifying will be billed separately. Kasi nga, this is to be conducted by an expert. So, this is to be conducted by an expert. Kaya, hindi namin siya nakalagay doon. So, now, may iba kasing audit naman. Audit firm, auditing firm na nilalagay talaga nila yung expert separately. So anong oras na ba? 7:06. So okay lang po ba class? May titingnan pa tayong isa. Can you still hear me, class?
Yes po,
Yes,
sir.
Alright. Okay.
Yes,
So let me just
po.
check this. So let me just check natin. Audit proposal. So, hanapin ko lang yung audit proposal. Audit proposal. Audit engagement. CFC audit. Ayan. Tignan natin kung meron. Let me just check. So, medyo okay. Ano to? China Bank, Audit. Proposal audit, audit charge inquiry. Wala siya. Check natin dito. Audit proposal. Check. Ayan, check natin ito. Audit proposal. Ayan, tignan natin. Ayan, so can you still see this, class?
Opo, sir.
Alright, ayan. So this one is audit proposal from PNA Grant Thornton. So lakihan natin. Ay, mali. Ay, tama ba? Ayan, liit Sundan natin. Lakihan na. Ayan. So, this is from the PNA Grant Thornton. Ito yung kanilang audit proposal. So, ganun din. Pareho rin kami ng format. Ayan. Okay. So, scope of work, nandun din. Purpose of audit and limitations. Compliance with SEC requirements, nandyan din. Value-added services, management responsibilities and representation, nandyan din. Okay, reports, nandun din. Professional fees. Ayan, so sa kanila may fixed OPEs lang sila. Alright. Other fee matters, other services. Ayan. Standard terms and conditions naman sa kanila. Ayan, standard terms and conditions. Tapos dito, saan din sa atin? Ayan. Check natin. Ito yung sa atin. Standard terms of business of this engagement letter. So kanila standard terms and conditions. So sinet out naman nila yung kanilang obligation, related services, obligations naman ng client. So nilagay nila conflicts of interest. So ang ganda ng kanila. Emergence of reputational and business risk, delays, fees and expenses. So and then dyan, payment, confidentiality, processing on data protection. Ayan. Check natin kung may expert silang sinabi. Expert. Hero din. So, hindi rin nila binanggit. Although, supposedly, nandoon din dapat yung expert. So, kasi automatically na yon, any other arrangement outside the audit engagement, expert na ang gumagawa. No? So, yan. Alright, ayan. So yan, meron pa sila. Kasi yung client na ito, actually, si Via Philippines is my client sa tax. Tapos client naman ni PNA, si Via Philippines pagdating sa audit. So US kasi yung company, yung parent company nila, US company. So naglagay dito si Punong Bayan and Arroyo na professional services rendered for entities registered with US Securities and Exchange Commission. This provision applies. Ayan, okay, ganyan. Alright. Termination. So may termination sa kanila. So ibig sabihin, kapag katapos ng audit engagement na ito, terminated na yung audit engagement na ito. So kapag kinuha ulit sila sa susunod, ano mangyayari? Magbibigay ulit sila ng new audit engagement. Nakukuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Opo, sir.
Yes po, sir.
Okay, yan lang. Alright. So, hindi ko na kasi mahanap yung iba, yung sa PricewaterhouseCoopers, saka sa SGV naman na ganito, engagement letter nila. So, at least meron kayong visualization ng mga sample engagement letter para at least may idea kayo paano ba yung engagement letter, yung itsura niya. So, that's all for our class discussion for today. So, see you again next Saturday. This Saturday pala. See you again this Saturday. So, we will discuss our continuation for auditing theory tapos sa auditing problem. So, kamusta pala tayo, class, with our answering our